does natural alternatives like me. But I've gotten his newsletter for years, for 30 years. And he is a very powerful teacher and talks about natural alternatives. In one of his newsletters, he never asked for money, but in one he did to support a gentleman named Stan Brzezinski, who has the Brzezinski Clinic in Houston. Anybody know about that?
Yes.
Well, I knew about him because he's very successful in dealing with growths. He cares about, and I'm saying he does this, he cares about 90% of growths in the brain. I'm using the word growths because I don't like to use that C word. And he cares about 50 or more % of other kinds of growths. And because he did that, he was raided and shut down and his license pulled away because it was working. And you can study this and it's all there, it's the truth. So when I study these patches, I want to know the details. I know, and how many of you know, that when X39 goes on you, it stimulates the signaling molecule, GHK, copper peptide. You need copper, right? So 1 square of dark chocolate a day. You know how to get all the calories out of your favorite dessert? Just eat it, you'll get them all. So just limit to 1 calorie one day. So that's the mechanism there. Glutathione upregulates a signaling molecule in your liver. But no one ever says about what the molecular mechanism is on EON. Now I heard David Schmidt say this, so I'm going to tell the story. May I? He said he was invited to Suzanne Summers' house. Anybody ever heard of her?
Mm-hmm.
And she had a mastectomy and grew back her breasts with natural alternatives. And she's a big fan of the glutathione patch, and she's in David Schmidt's in her books. She invites some of the top naturopathic physicians to her house once a year. And David was invited. And he met a gentleman named Stan Brzezinski. And he said, "What do you do?" And Stan told him what he did, that he treated growths. And he said, "How do you do it?" And he said, "With a peptide." And David said, "What peptide?" And he told him, and David couldn't wait to get back to the lab to make a patch that stimulated that peptide. You know what the patch is called? EON. Now, how many would rather have your own body making that? You could do both. I don't have anything against going to the clinic and having to do it that way. It's the same. MDs right now are injecting GHK copper peptide, 25 milligrams. Did you know that? But there's some downside to that, and it's not always 100%. How many would rather have your own body wake up with the X39 patch? Well, that's why EON is because when I heard that mechanism, I was like, I'm not missing a day of EON. How many are not going to miss a day of EON? Mm-hmm. And I'm not missing a day of X39. That's just me. You can do what you want. I think you could just wear X39. Some people are X39 only. That's fine if you want to do that. Not me. As for me and my house, we do the dynamic duo. And we got a lot of supporting patches. Sometimes I wake up and look at Susan, she got a smack patch here. Everywhere.
Fantastic. All right, Dr. Don, you mentioned the glutathione with Suzanne Summers. So you want to touch on glutathione?
Yes, glutathione is the major antioxidant in your body. And I think what impresses me about the importance of glutathione is in the blue zones. Are you familiar with the blue zones? That's the areas where people have the most longevity. They live the longest. They got those long telomeres. And they have the highest levels of glutathione anywhere. Why? Because glutathione is a detoxifier. It quenches free radical damage, which is probably the major cause of aging in your body. It's a super antioxidant. It supports SOD, superoxide dismutase, if you're into the details of things. That system that is a great detoxifying anti-aging system. Glutathione, because it's a detoxifier, people may experience a healing crisis. It's not a bad thing. Tell them I start out by saying, look, if you wear it and you go, that thing made me sick. No, it didn't. It started pulling toxins out of your body. And I tell people, tough it out. And if they say, I can't, then I say, do it every other day, but stay on it. The difference between our glutathione patch, which signals the liver to make more glutathione, versus taking oral glutathione, which I'm a big fan of. You can only get 30% higher levels of glutathione when you take it orally. But the half-life of glutathione is 7.5 minutes. So if I take 100 milligrams of glutathione, 7.5 minutes later, I got 50 left. 15 minutes later, I got 25. Another 7.5 minutes, I got 12.5. I got 6. It's gone. In a couple hours, you don't have it. Glutathione increases glutathione levels by 300%, and the effect lasts for 24 hours. So if you're patching every 12 hours, you're consistently getting 300% glutathione levels. Everybody say, I'm in the blue zone.
I'm on the blue zone.
Thank you, Dr. Don. All right, let's talk a second about carnosine. So carnosine is another really big antioxidant. How many of you love carnosine? How many of you have a brain? Anybody have a heart? You're going to need this, right? So carnosine signals the body to increase its own carnosine level. That's what this patch does. Just like glutathione, different peptides, tripeptides, dipeptides, okay? And so when you use carnosine, this is the patch where we see improvements in the heart. We see improvements in the function of the heart, the vascular system. Carnosine loves to hang out in the vascular system. We also see improvements in the brain. Balances left brain, right brain hemisphere, improves cognition and communication. All of your executive functions that are taking place in the brain are improved with carnosine. How many of you seen improvement with carnosine in your brain function? Anybody? Processing time. When I started using this patch, Brent tells me all the time I talk too fast.
The machine gun.
No, it's the carnosine. The carnosine sped up that processing time. So I have to really slow down my speaking so that everyone can understand what I'm saying. Thank you.
Now we can keep up with her. You know, you said about your brain, sometimes people say to me, I won't believe it unless I see it. So I say to them, you believe you have a brain? I think you've ever seen that.
Write these down, Laura. We're using these for Tuesday. Ton, you're coming on with me this Tuesday. Okay?
No, my daughters graduate from high school. The last one,
All right.
move them up, move them up.
Move them up.
Go to college.
Following Tuesday. All right, so you heard Dr. Don talk about SB6. So we're not going to get into that one anymore for time purposes. But Dr. Don, I want you to touch on X39. David just said a few words on it. So
Yeah.
could you touch a few little words extra
To
on
me,
that?
X49 is a super synergism with X39. The two together actually can protect from EMF interference, from bad, there's good vibrations. You know the song, good vibrations. That's X39 and Eon, that's the good vibrations, all right? But there's bad vibrations too, and it happens the 60 cycles that are in here is not a good vibration. So you get a protective effect. That's just a side benefit of wearing X39 with X49. But I'd say the major benefit of X49, it supports healthy metabolism. So I'd say reducing unwanted fat and building muscle. But strong bones, strengthening bones. So people are dealing with thinning of the bones, which is the O word, I can't say it, you know that word. But supporting bone health. Why? Because the bone marrow is where the cells of the immune system are formed. So healthy, strong bones, healthy muscle support, fat loss, and also a general sense of well-being. People seem to sleep better and exercise. That's the one. I didn't tell you this, but what I noticed, recovery from exercise, it was specifically designed by David, if I'm not mistaken, for people who are into athletics and doing things to decrease recovery time and have your body work better, so that when you're using, and you can use X49 alone. I don't know why you would, because I always start with what? The dynamic
Duo.
What are they?
X39 and
X39
Eon.
and Eon. So what do you have to add on X49?
X49, we saw, you heard, of course, 11% body fat reduction in our clinical studies in 60 days. But we also saw reduction in the blood pressure systolic and diastolic in
Yes,
60
and what we
days.
can say is supports healthy blood pressure. Don't say it's gonna decrease anybody's blood pressure. Everybody say supports healthy blood pressure. That's
Here we
lean,
go.
clean and lean.
All right, let's talk about David's first patch that he invented. He invented Energy Enhancer first. You heard Pania talk about that earlier. This is a 2-patch system. How many of you have Energy Enhancer on right now? That's why you're still focusing, right? You've got that stamina, endurance, you haven't hit your afternoon lull yet. Energy Enhancer is a daytime only patch. Say that.
Daytime only patch.
Now, let's talk about our 2 nighttime patches. So, we have Silent Nights and we have Alavita. I'll touch really quickly on Silent Nights. Dr. Don, you can touch on Alavita. Oh, you want to do Silent Nights?
I'll do Silent Nights.
Go for
I
it.
love Silent Nights because I love melatonin. Everybody say that with me. I
love silent
Even if you
melatonin.
don't, you need to learn about it and start loving it. Because melatonin is good for everybody. You say, well, I don't have a problem sleeping. Or it makes me groggy or whatever. No, very few people have that situation and they'll acclimate to it. I take 5 grams of melatonin every night. My 88-year-old mother takes 10 and she's 95 pounds. It's good for your immune system. But the only thing better than taking melatonin is having your body produce more melatonin. Plus, it's a component in melanin in the skin. So if you want to have that healthy glow, everybody say, I want a silent night.
I want silent
Sing
night.
it with me.
Okay, and you're awake and you're laughing. This is priceless. I love it. Dr. Don, you're amazing. God, I miss doing this with you. Okay, so Alavita. Alavita is a nighttime only patch. This patch signals a different peptide in the brain, in the pineal gland, the hypothalamin peptide. This is responsible for reducing oxidative stress, inflammatory stress in the body, different than the Eon. Very different because it's signaling a different peptide. We know this is fantastic for what organ? The largest organ in your body. Your
Skin.
skin, yes. How many of you love Alavita every night?
Woo!
How many of you love your wild, crazy, vivid dreams? With Alavita. Kind of, right?
What I love with Alavita are the lotions that come with it, day and night. The smell of them. Before this, I had my own company. It was a skincare company, and we had some great skincare. I like this skincare even better, and I did a lot of research on that. So hats off to whoever formulated this. I love the Alavita. One warning with Alavita: if your wife wears it, she may wait. You may startle in the morning because you're gonna another looking at you in the morning. You look at it. And go, what's that? Oh yeah. Okay.
Some people like to put their patch right here for those vivid dreams. Yes, I keep mine below my belly button. You can do center or the back of the neck. Either.
It'll look back at you if you're the partner.
All right, you guys, let's talk about Nirvana. Nirvana! Response to Nirvana!
You can always remember Nirvana because just pretend James Brown is here. I feel good,
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
like I knew that I would. I feel nice, 'cause I've been born twice. So good, so nice. I've got good news. I feel sweet. And that's what I got to say about Nirvana. Support your feel-good neurotransmitters. I tried depression. I didn't like it. I like Nirvana.
And there it is, Nirvana.
Can you remember that?
I feel good. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
All right, we have our last 2 patches. You're fantastic. We have our last 2
Pray
patches.
for me, because if my wife's watching them,
Nirvana.
I'm gonna put one on each temple.
So these last 2 patches, Ice Wave and AccuLife are exactly the same, but one is licensed for pets or veterinary use, and one is licensed for humans. I'll never forget the second event, Lee and I went to California, and we're listening to David, and someone stood up and said, well, my husband is very, very, very large. He's over 400 pounds. Would he use the AccuLife then?
You say, does he bark?
David's like, no. They're not based on weight, okay? But I'll tell you, if my husband's been a horse's you know what, sometimes I give him AccuLife after the golf course instead of Ice Wave.
If he walks by a fire hydrant and has the urge to lift his leg, he might consider that.
Might consider it. You never know. He has been known to do that too.
Can I say something about, though, very seriously about this? And it's a little bit of a contrast from the other patches, although not completely. It's really good at covering symptoms, and I have nothing against covering symptoms. I'm an MD. I was trained in pharmaceuticals. I don't use any, but I'm an MD. I use pharmaceuticals, and I've got nothing against covering symptoms, even with pharmaceuticals when necessary, if you've exhausted natural alternatives. But poisoning yourself to health is not the best approach in the long run. I believe you should look for natural alternatives when you can find them. But if you break your leg or have a heart attack, don't come to me for natural alternatives. Get to the hospital and get it done, right? It's a triage. When do you use what thing? These patches are really good at covering symptoms. They don't address the cause as much. They do address the cause somewhat, though, I've learned. But the other patches is a big contrast because pharmaceuticals are really good at covering symptoms. They're so good that they can, you just take a simple example. High blood pressure is not a disease, it's a symptom. It's a red flag. Am I right, Dr. Mario? And to treat that, I can take your blood pressure all the way down to 0 with pharmaceuticals. You wouldn't like that, I promise you. But I've not addressed the cause of the problem, and sometimes the pharmaceuticals you use to address the problem make the cause worse. So if there's a better way, I mean, we can almost do everything. This is my opinion. Don't hold, this is not LifeWave. This is Dr. Don Verholtz, MD. We can almost do everything nutraceutically and with energy medicine that we can do pharmaceutically. Almost. So why not use those modalities? If you don't want to, go ahead. You still have your free will, but our patching, stem cell activation patches and supportive patches do address the cause of the problem. That makes a lot more sense to me than just covering the symptoms, right? And that's an important point to remember about this company. We have something precious. We have something precious that we want to share with everyone. So my recommendation is if you love somebody, you better tell them about this. And if you're afraid to tell them, get on a podcast, get on one of these things that we're talking about and let us tell them. Because you probably don't have as much credibility with them as we do because they don't know us, they know you. Third-party credibility. We're ready, willing, and able to help, aren't we?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Ice Wave, AccuLife, pain relief on the spot. Go to LifeWave Health on YouTube. Please watch. David has done 5 different videos, an intro to the Ice Wave and also 4 different videos giving you placement of the patches. So please go there to see different options on how to apply Ice Wave to get rid of the pain on the spot. But like Dr. Don said, it's going to mask that symptom, right? It's going to help you alleviate that symptom on the spot, but it's not going to get to the root of the problem. We know that's what the other patches are going to do over time. So thank you so much, Dr. Don, for joining me up here this morning.